Welcome to the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, where rude mechanicals do magic. Hello, I'm Bronze Age, Director of the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, and today we're going to be rebuilding a classic design of a garden bench. Now this is a style sometimes referred to as wrought iron, and wrought is a word which means hammered. So what would happen is the blacksmith would take a piece of iron, heat it up red hot in the forge, and hammer it into shape. And once he was happy with that, he would heat it up to white hot. Wherever it was supposed to be joined together, he would hammer them and create a hammer weld. Now, obviously that's quite labor intensive. So it wasn't too long before somebody decided, well, what if we could make it all in one piece? And they would melt iron till it was liquid, and they would pour it into a mold, and that was called cast iron. Now, as we get up into the modern era, these things are being made probably in fairly low-tech foundries, kind of place where guys pour molten hot metal wearing sandals and no eye protection. But it's no longer cast iron. One of the problems with cast iron is that it can't be welded with electrical welding like steel can, which made a problem because one of these came in with this piece broken off, and I was able to very crudely duplicate it. I wasn't really trying to make it an exact double, but I just wanted something that would be comfortable when people were sitting on it. And the advantage I had when it came to welding cast iron is that this is actually cast whatever they had laying around the yard the day they made this. So old brake drums, any kind of scrap metal, steel, whatever went into it. And so it's some kind of mixture of steel and maybe a little bit of cast iron, but mostly steel. And as a result of that, when these things break and crack, they can be welded like any other kind of steel. I'm going to make the seat boards from treated pine deck plank, which comes with a true dimension of 1 inch by 6 inches. And here's a tip. The factory end, it's never square. I'm cutting the pieces from 10-foot deck planks, mainly because the seat's going to be 52 inches long and I can get 2 pieces. Plus that leaves me enough room that I can trim off these ends, which have knots like this, because most of the work and the trimming is going to be done here on the end. And when you are picking out boards that are smooth and straight, you can't always be choosy about the last couple inches. And after a lot of thought, I've decided to do this the hard way. The original seat boards were about so wide, with some thinner ones at the top and the bottom, and they were held in place with bolts just like this. And I've got boards that are 6 inches wide, and that works well in 2 places, but simply won't fit going around the curve or at the top or at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is cut boards like this up to fit and bolt them down to each one of these holes and make whatever adjustments are necessary as I go along. Part of the problem here is that because this was cast, these surfaces here are actually at an angle. And there's only a few places where the 1 inch board goes in nice and smooth. So the ends will have to be trimmed and shaped to get them as deep in there as possible to get this bolt hole as far away from the edge as possible. Now to figure out what shape to cut the boards into, I've taken these 1 inch blocks and shaped them so that they fit into the groove, and I'll be able to use them as a guide for when I am cutting up the big boards. And since this is going to be exposed to the weather, and these boards will shrink and expand as they get wet or dry out, I've left a gap here using these 8-penny nails in between so that when they do expand, they won't pinch each other, and let's hope that the gap doesn't get too big when they shrink. Well, this job is going to call for a lot of ripping of these deck planks, so I'm over here at the Craftsman Model 113. Now I could make a lot of careful measurements and transfer all that over to the saw, but it's much easier to use these blocks that I made and use them just to set the saw up directly. for the angle and the cut. Then I use my shop-made table saw gauge, which compensates for a poor quality fence. Make sure that the fence is perfectly straight, and I'm ready to cut my first board. Now I need to transfer this profile as close as I can, but it's really not that critical because it's going to be shaped to the edge of the bench. And you can use any tool you want. Rasp will get it done. I prefer the grinder with the flap disc. The bench ends are really awkward to work with, so I made a couple of little jack stands to hold them up. Now it'll take a couple fittings to get it to fit all the way in, and use a little chalk here to transfer over so I can see where it's still hidden, because I don't want to remove any more wood than I actually have to. And this would be easier if I was using thinner boards, but as I said at the beginning, I'm doing this the hard way. Now when I'm happy with the fit, I'll mark the hole with a Sharpie so I can drill it, put it in place, and then it's a case of just marching down the rest of the bench till it's finished. Now the full boards have 2 bolts through them, so that's really what keeps the whole thing from racking. There will be some braces on the bottom of the seat, but it also keeps it from going this way. So I've got it clamped in place, and I'm going to drill them on the bench because I got to get these really close and precise. I use this long drill bit on the bottom pieces because I can't get the drill in close enough to make a hole in the direction I want to. Now that I've got all these pieces fit to satisfaction, I'm going to take it over the router table and round over all these sharp edges on the bevels. I've got a round over bit with a guide bearing on here, which is useless because this taper won't let me run along the bearing. So to make up for that, I've just made this fence which holds the board basically in the same place as if it was a flat end. Now the pieces where the bevel runs in the other direction won't fit on the router table, so that's dealt with the quiet way. The last step of this job is these 2 stout braces that I've made from a piece of bed rail, which is some pretty tough steel. I don't recommend trying to drill through it. One of the advantages of bed rails, there's lots of holes in them that sometimes come out in convenient places. This is Bronze Age for the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage. Thank you for sitting through this video on restoring this old garden bench. I really would appreciate it if you would give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I try to put out 1 video every week. This one's going to come through a little bit late, but it'll be there. And in the meantime, comments are always welcome. Questions are always answered on any matter concerning furniture repair, lighting repair, or whatever you want to ask. Again, thank you for watching.